Hey y'all, I hope today has been full of blessings and peace because we know for those of us that work, Mondays sometimes are like hectic. So I am coming back to do our part two of the turning to the world instead of God, trusting in the world instead of God, Isaiah chapter 30 series, right? I don't want to say series because then the Lord will put more Isaiah on me, and forgive me because my baby's in the background. I've been trying to get this video. Hey, I've been trying to get this video out for like the past maybe week, and the enemy has been working hard, but understand God is working harder, working hard, trying to get me not to get this message out. My baby was sick over this past weekend. I typically try to upload on Saturdays, sometimes Fridays, but she was a little under the weather. We even missed church yesterday, which is something I do not like to do. I love my Sundays and I love to go to the house of the Lord. But furthermore, without further ado, I am here to to go ahead and give you part two. And I'm going to just say this is part two. I don't know if God is going to guide me through more chapters in Isaiah. If anybody is in alignment with God, you know that He will, it's His way. So if He decides, hey, we're going to make this a series, we're going to make it a series. If not, hey, I'm just going with the flow. So today we are the first part one video was breaking down verse 1 of chapter 30. Chapter 30 is trust the Lord and not Egypt. So we've already went through verse 1. I'll just read it again though. Woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord, take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin. So we talked about what that meant in part one. If you want to know and you want to hear the breakdown, go and check out part one. Trust in God, not the world. Today we're going to start with breaking down verse 2. So verse 2 is that walk to go down into Egypt and have not asked at my mouth. Okay, so I'm going to just stop right there. So, verse 2, this speaks to people relying on worldly systems, human wisdom, or quick fixes without prayer or consulting God. Notice that walk to go down into Egypt and have not asked at my mouth. So, we're not going into prayer before we make that decision in our career. We're not going into prayer before we make this investment. We are seeking counsel from people instead of going to God first. I don't do that. I mean, I've been guilty of doing it in the past, but baby, let me tell you something. I don't do it now. I talk to God about everything before, especially any big things that I am going to be embarking on. So that is talking to people relying on worldly systems. The worldly systems is a device of the enemy to keep us in bondage, to keep us oppressed. So we know you can't rely on worldly systems. Human wisdom, you also cannot rely on human wisdom, because sometimes you may be getting advice from a person that is speaking from their own personal experience, or even from a broken aspect, right? And so they're not giving you clear wisdom. Mm-mm. And the microwave fixes, pop it in the microwave, quick fix, band-aid fixes without prayer. God is saying, get back in prayer. Come to me. God wants to be our counselor. He wants to be our therapist. He wants to be the mother, the father that some of us have never had. Go to him. The Israelites were literally going into Egypt. This is my notes. We're literally going into Egypt, but they didn't speak to God first. They were going into the same exact place that kept them captive, that kept them in bondage, that He had freed them from. That goes back to like the part one video, stacking sand on top of sand. You got to go back and watch that video. And then to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. Today, what that looks like is relying on money, influence, education, or connections without asking God for guidance. So you think you're going to go because you have this degree, or you think you're going to go because you have this influence, right? Or you think you're going to go and you're going to get the best of the best because of your finances. None of that matters if you are not going and allowing God to go first. I got a video about that too. Allowing God to go before you. Just like Joshua did, y'all. God let Joshua know, I am going to go before you guys because you are traveling into a territory that you are not familiar with. We got to feel like that about decisions, okay? Stop making decisions without asking God for guidance. Stop thinking, oh, I got a cousin that work at da 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 da, and you know they got everybody. Everybody loves somebody that's connected. The best connection you can have is to God. Okay, that's a word for somebody. And so the next sentence is, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt, trusting a false shadow. Egypt is called a shadow because it only looks like protection, but it ain't got no real power. Just like the world is presented to us with all these worldly systems like, oh, wow, wow, wow. But it ain't really, like where I'm from, it ain't really hitting on nothing for real. Ain't nothing bigger than God. Nothing has more power than God. So nothing externally can set you free, can give you the clarity, can give you the wisdom, can give you the approval more than God. God is warning that anything outside of his spirit is temporary and unreliable. Why you think that a lot of times stuff be going good? You ever had those cycles in your life where things are going good? They're going good. They're going good. But you don't know if what you're doing is inside of God's will. But how you can tell is if it's only going good for a 6-month period and then all of a sudden it's at a halt. Oh man, people like to say slow money, better than no. That's because you're not doing it the right way. Verse 3 is, therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt be your confusion. So that is speaking, and it's saying Pharaoh represents worldly systems, money, power, influence, and human connections. Okay. God is saying this flat out. Whatever you lean on outside of God will fail you every single time. And I'm sure that whoever is watching this video is like, oh my God, anytime I relied on anything outside of God, it never panned out the right way. I always had disappointments. I've always had heartaches. And I'll speak for myself. Every time I relied on something outside of God, it never played out. It was a temporary fix. It was a quick fix. It was a temporary, oh, I'm happy right now. And then I look up and it's something happened and I'm disappointed. Okay. And he's also saying, or ultimately will bring you shame. So spiritually, it's like relying on what God hasn't even authorized. Like you got to get it stamped and approved by God. It just looks strong, but it cannot save or satisfy your soul. So you still find yourself yearning. You still find yourself in these cycles of repeated issues with your finances, repeated issues with your relationships. That's because you're not going to God to get his approval, to make sure this is in alignment. Okay. Trust in the shadow of Egypt will be your confusion. So Egypt is a shadow because of the false security, right? So trusting these worldly systems lead to confusion. I just said that, disappointment and spiritual disorientation, because they cannot bring the guidance, peace, or protection only God can give you. So I listen to people talk about how they suffer from all of these mental afflictions and, oh, I'm not feeling this and I'm this way and I'm that way. But the reason why is because they are trusting in the shadow, that Egypt. And it's false security. It might make you feel good temporarily, right? But in the end, it makes you confused because you feel like I was just good a week ago. Now everything is just a storm. It's bringing in confusion because it's outside of God's will. We have got to No, we have got to, one moment, baby. We have got to learn to stay within God's will. The best thing that I can say for myself personally, and I'll use me for an example. When I got into God's will and the things that He wanted me to do, and I started to go to Him for guidance and instruction and wisdom and understanding, everything flowed so smoothly for me. I can remember times when I was outside of God's will. I'd be like, why is all this going on? It seems like it's 12 things happening at one time. Why is all of this happening? And then I look back now and I'm like, oh, it's because I was trying to do what I thought was the right thing to do, when in turn it wasn't in alignment with what God wanted me to do. And it could have been during that time, I just wanted a quick fix. Okay, I just want to, okay, I'm taking this job because, oh my goodness, it pays enough money and I'm comfortable. But God is like, this is not what I designed for you to do. This is not where I want you to be. Or even in relationships, right? You are in this connection with a person and it's constant drama. And you like, well, what is going on? Because that is not where you should be. That person is not in alignment with God's plan for your life. But we look around and I want to get the job with the most paying monies because the worldly system at one point makes us feel like that's what we need to do and that's what we should be. We don't think about a peace of mind. What Kevin Gates say, all work, I don't never sleep. Like all of that, like all of the things that we are programmed to think through the worldly systems is just a way to keep us in the loop and keep us out of connection with God. So I'm saying this to say, y'all, and this really was like a prophetic warning, okay? Because if you go back to part 1, you'll see that I had a dream and it was like everybody was zombies in the dream. And it's because we are basing everything off of what we see and what we hear and what we learn externally, I'm sorry. And what we need to do is take time, build that relationship with God. Pray before you make these big moves, these big investments. You want to buy a home, but you listening, okay, I'm gonna talk to my auntie because she bought a house 20 years ago and she knows, or I want to purchase a new car, I want to get my credit right, or I'm thinking about switching my career. Before you do those things, you need to go to God. You don't need to be online Googling. I mean, of course, do your research, but go to God first. Because when you go to Him, He's going to guide you exactly to where you need to go to get the information that you need. Oh my God. All right. I hope this video helped. I pray that you are blessed. I pray that you are safe this evening and you enjoy the rest of your night, and God bless you and yours. See y'all later.